In this part, we're going to create the final piece of guide mesh, and then in the next video, we will start creating the panels of the car. The final piece of guide mesh we'll need is the trunk piece we have over here. So let me just zoom into this area, and I'm going to hide this piece we have over here for now. Or maybe what we can do is we could just take two vertices here, or just one, but for now let's take two. I'm going to press Shift and D and press X and move this in the X direction to about somewhere here. And then we're going to press P to separate the selection. Now I'm going to get out of edit mode. I want to take this one and then hide it. Now I'm going to take this piece and then go into edit mode. I'm going to take this vertex here and delete it. Now I'm going to take this one, let's move it to the left side to about somewhere here like this. I want to move this up in the Z. Let's zoom into this area and see what we have. So let me just move it in the X and down in the Z a bit. Now I'm going to move it in the Y till we have it in the same area in all of the images in our viewport. I'm going to move this one up a bit in this area. Maybe a little bit down, and I think that should be good. I want to press E and then X and extrude this in the X axis until it merges in the center. Now I'm going to press G and then Y and move this out to about somewhere here. Now I'm going to press Ctrl and R and we're going to add in 3 vertices in the middle of these 2 vertices here. Now I'm going to left click and then keep it where it is. Now I'm going to get into the top view over here. Now we're going to have to round things up very nicely in this area. So we're going to move these vertices one by one and then try to achieve that. So I'm going to press G and then Y and move this back to about somewhere here. Let's pay attention to this area. So I'm going to move this up just a little bit. Now I'm going to move this down to about somewhere here. Let me take this, let me move it up to about somewhere here. I'm just going to push things out a bit more in this area. So I'm just going to round things off a little better. Something like that should be good. Let me just move them out a bit more. Now let's use the loop to space option on this to make sure the spaces between them are even. Very nice. Let's get back into camera view. Now we're going to take this, we're going to Shift and D it and move it down in the Z axis to the bottom area like that. Let's take a look here. I'm going to press G and Z and move this up to about somewhere here. I'm going to press G and Y and move it out to about here. Just so it is aligned in all of the images in our viewport. I'm going to move it up in the Z again, then move it out in the Y like that. Maybe a little bit further out, not so much. And that should be quite good. Now I'm going to take these 4, let's press F and deselect the leftmost ones. I'm going to press F all the way to the center. Let's disable the subdivision surface modifier for now. Now let's get out of camera view here. And let's press Ctrl and R and then let's add in 3 loop cuts in this area. Now let's get to the side view and let's get into wireframe here, and also here, and also here. So we're going to press G and then Y and move this out to about somewhere here like this until the top edge loop is aligned in all of the images in our viewport. So something like this. And we're going to deselect the topmost one and I want to move the one at the bottom, the bottommost one. We're going to move that also onto the edge in all of our images like so. I'm going to deselect that and finally we're going to move the middle one like that. You can see that nice curve we have going on. Now let's take this piece here and then extrude it up in the Z axis like this. Using this side as reference, so we're going to move it down a bit. I want to press G and Y and move it in the Y axis to about somewhere here like that. Now let's take the piece at the bottom and then let's extrude that down in the Z axis to about here. Now I'm going to press G and Y and move this in the Y axis. Now let's try and match things in this area. So I'm just going to press G and then X and move the whole thing in the X axis a bit. I'm just going to move this one in a bit more. I don't know how far inside it goes, but I'm going to guess to about somewhere here. We take a look here. You can see the difference. I'm just going to move it out slightly to about there. And finally, let's extrude it down in the Z axis to the bottom Now let's make our way up here. I'm going to press Ctrl and R and add in 2 loop cuts in this area. Now we're going to press Alt and S and then shrink this out so we can round that area off just ever so slightly. We don't want it to be too extreme. Now let's get down here and do the same thing. So I'm going to add 2 of them in here. I'm going to press Alt and S and then shrink it out just slightly. Now let's get up here. I'm going to press Ctrl and R to add in an edge loop to support the edge we have above. I'm going to keep the space the same as the one we have above. So I'm going to press E to align it with the one above and then keep it about somewhere here like this. And that should help shape this curve area a bit more. If I enable the subdivision surface modifier, you can see what I mean. We could just move it up a bit like so. Maybe we could add 1 in the middle here, get to the side. Let's press Alt and S and shrink it out just slightly. Let's slide this one up a bit and then shrink it out slightly as well. And that should be looking good. Let's recalculate the normals. Very nice. Let's get back into camera view. Let's go into edit mode. So here in this area, we're pretty much going to do the same thing. So I'm going to press Ctrl and R in here. I'm going to press E and then F to align with the one below. I want to keep it somewhere around here. And let's get to the side view. I'm going to press Alt and S and then shrink this out a little bit like that. Now I'm going to do the same thing here. E and then F or F twice to align it with the one above. And I'm just going to shrink it out slightly like so. Let me slide this one down a bit. I'm just going to press Ctrl and R between each of these to sharpen that edge even more. I'm just going to shrink them out just slightly. Now let's add supporting edge loops to the final edge we have down here. So I'm going to press E and then F to align it with the one below. And we're going to keep it somewhere here. And I'm going to do the same thing here. Press E, align it with the one above, and then keep it somewhere here. Let's slide this one down a bit more. Come on. Like so. And that should be looking good. Now we can shade smooth and see what we have. Now the final thing we'll do is to add in the supporting edge loops we have on the outer edges, and then we're done. So I'm going to start with this side first. I'm going to press Ctrl and R, and then press E and then F to align with the left side edge. I want to put it somewhere around here, like so. Now let's put one more in the middle of that. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm just going to put one above, and that should be it. Now let's get down here. I'm going to press Ctrl and R and move one below, E and then F, like so, and then add one more in here. Now one last thing we could do is to extend the edges we have here. So what we're going to do is to press G twice to slide this in slightly. I'm going to press C to slide this out beyond where it initially was. Just so when we create the panel in this area, there's enough room for it to work with when we add in the shrink wrap modifier. Now I'm going to take this side, I'm going to do the same thing and slide it out further than where it is supposed to be. I'm going to do the same thing over here as well and slide it down. And let's move these supporting edge loops further down. And that should be it for that guide mesh. Now let's press Alt and H to bring all the guide meshes back and see what we have. Now before we go, one final thing I want us to fix is this area right here. So when you take a look, you can see up here we have some spaces, and as we make our way down, the space kind of shrinks. Now we're supposed to have spaces all the way through to the bottom to this side. So we're going to have to try and fix that. So what we can do is to take the whole thing, and then let's make this the active element. And I think we could just rotate this in the x-axis, like so, to about somewhere here like this. And let's take a look at the space we have now. I'm going to rotate it a little bit more. So R and then X. And then let's take a look at what we have. Let me rotate it out a bit more. Now let me take these 3 vertices we have here. I'm going to shrink it in just a little bit. Now let me just take all of these. Now let's just move it out just slightly. I think that should give us a good amount of space to work with in that area. This is one final thing I realized later and decided to add to this part of the video, is to fix this area a bit more. So I'm going to take this piece here. Now, instead of keeping it straight, as we have right now, we would want to slant it just slightly, not so much. So I'm going to press Ctrl Alt Shift S and then X, and we're going to slant this slightly to about something like this. And let's get into the camera view and out of local view and see what this looks like. And I think that's what we're going for.